we all know. We need to advocate, I think, even more loudly, fascinating. Not always gross. It's not always, people locking 6 women in a room and torturing them. You're just a sick fuck, man. That's scary. I mean, give me a break. We can all be gross. We all can't create true horror.
Rick, you've been doing horror books for a while. I mean, why did you find yourself always continuing with the genre?
I do horror because I like telling stories about people. I like telling human interest stories, but you won't read those. So I put monsters in them, and then you'll read them and love them. When you're working in comics, everything is shorthand, and you have to find a way to tell your love story, to tell your adventure story, and to tell your story about the guy who's just waking up one day and goes out to do his job and really hates his life. But you're not going to read that if I just tell you that. But if I say that he wakes up in the morning and goes out to do his job and he hates his job, and one day he finds a big tentacled beastie who's about to eat him and he beats the living hell out of him, you're going to read that because that's horror. Horror is, much like science fiction, a way for us to be able to tell stories that we want to tell about the human condition, and it's a way for you to read those stories. I wrote a few issues of Houseworm for Marvel many years ago, and I thought I was writing a horror comic for Marvel, and they said, "There's no hell in the Marvel Universe." I said, "Okay." "There's no Satan in the Marvel Universe." I said, "Okay, but we want you to write this book that used to be called The Son of Satan." Okay. So I knew going in that I was really screwed. And so, for me, the idea is horror is so subjective. I mean, how many people here like vampire stories? Zombies? Slasher? Okay. There are so many genres, subgenres of horror. You're not all going to like the same kind of thing. Some of you love Dirk stuff. Some of you like Cullen stuff. Some of you love Gary stuff. Some of you still don't know who I am. But the idea is that horror in comics is so small and so subjective, and you've got to find that niche. You've got to get people to read your stuff and find a way of making it effective and trying to get an audience. Because horror comic enthusiasts and readers, we are a very small group, and we should be loyal to each other and love one another and eat each other's brains. And I forgot what Dan's question was.
You got so far off topic.
That's right. I write horror because I love writing stories, and horror allows me to tell those stories and get you to read them. And I like scaring the hell out of people.
So what do you guys see in general for the future of the horror market? I mean, do you see it branching off more? Like nowadays we're seeing like more crossovers, a lot more crossover stuff. Like let's take Frankie Castle, for example, bad example, but an example. I mean, do we see the market just continuing to dwindle down until you don't care anymore?
Get diluted, do you?
Yes.
I have my collected Marvel zombies. I love it. Superhero monsters. That's horror. Franken Castle. Isn't that horror?
Well, right. And the thing, I mean, I think sometimes horror fans are our own worst enemies because we're almost apologetic about it. And like I said, with Nightmare World, it was like my dissertation to everyone. Look at all the stuff you can do with this great genre. And I'll tell people straight out, I don't like gross stuff. But if something is scary or suspenseful and it's gross, well, then I can tolerate it a lot more. What bothers me more than anything, and people call me a prude, is unnecessary sex scenes and then people getting massacred. Really? I guess that says about me that the extraneous, gratuitous nudity bothers me more than someone getting their head ripped off, but it does. But what we're seeing, horror quietly, as just being said, permeate into more and more things. I mean, there's a walking, sorry There's a Walking Dead TV show. Zombie World's being optioned. You know, all this, I mean, it's out there. But I think we always kind of, as fans, kind of stand in the corner and kick the dirt and like, oh yeah, by the way, I like horror stuff. Be loud. But then advocate for the good of horror. And I think that's what we're seeing happening. People are advocating for good stuff. And people are seeing what this medium is capable of. We all know. We all know. You know, and I just got this when I started wearing my horror pride. I mean, most people only know the image of me with a top hat and sunglasses and a scarf on, you know, going like this. It was kind of like my gag, kind of like my, you know, ha-ha to everyone. Like, yeah, I'm a horror writer. Here, now I look the part. But guess what? I don't sit around in a room all day. The world sucks. People are terrible. Well, he's going to advocate for it. And we're seeing that happen, I think. I think as we continue to advocate, the market's going to continue to grow more and more options and avenues will be opened up. And we'll all make and millions and millions of great products out there, and we'll all make the millions and millions we deserve for writing good fiction.
Anything you guys want to add to it?
Word.
Well, no, I think you are going to see it permeate into into the mainstream comics. I mean, you already have Blackest Night from DC. That's a horror, you know, that's a horror basis for that book, for that crossover. And I think you're going to see it more and more with, you know, it's just going to keep going and going. The thing that I think a lot of people miss, when both in creating horror stories and in people who are reading them or what they think about horror stories, is it can also be fun. I mean, you can tell stories, you can speak to the human condition, but you can also have fun with these stories, and you can actually enjoy reading it. And that's where I think more readers will come to a book and be surprised by it. Is they can say, okay, there's scary parts of this, but getting scared is kind of fun, isn't it? That's why the haunted house industry does so well every Halloween. That's why there's some joy in that. And the things I like I like fun stories, so that's the kind of story I'm going to tell if I can. And you know, I like the bleak horror stories as well, but I'm going to have the most fun telling the story that I think the readers are going to have fun reading, and I think that'll draw more people into the genre as a whole too. In comics, they see something unexpected. They read Blackest Night and they say, you know, it's kind of a zombie story. Maybe I'll like Dead World. Zombies, and they can, you know, it kind of opens the door. It can be, frankly, it can be that gateway drug when, you know, you have the mainstream stuff touching it, and then they say, well, maybe a zombie story is something I'll enjoy.
Speaking of the gateway drugs, I just have to put this little thing out there. So many people hate on Twilight, but make no mistake, that's a gateway drug for young girls and some guys to get into horror. Quit hating on it. They like it. Yes, the vampire sparkle, I get it. Fine, let them enjoy horror. Don't start making them feel like bastards for liking horror stuff. Sorry, I'm sorry, but that just is like a big pet peeve of mine. Thank you, sorry. Vote for me.
Well, you know, that's true. Everybody geeks out on something. Everybody. And it's ridiculous to make fun of what someone else geeks out on. I mean, I can't make fun of someone like, and I'm not just talking about within Twilight or within the horror genre or within comic books. It's like everybody. Some people geek out with sports, cars. There's just all these things that everybody gets into. You know, model trains. I'm not going to make fun of those people. That's their bag. It may not be mine, but I can't. I have plenty of things I geek out on. Far too many.
Gary or Rack, you want to answer?
I don't feel defensive about horror at all. I mean, I don't know. I've never really heard anybody criticize other people for liking horror and stuff. And horror is sort of, I mean, I don't even know if you can confine it to a genre because, I mean, you know, look at Alien. You know, that's a horror story just set in space. You know, and to me, I see it as a horror story. First, the setting is in space, but it's a horror story. And so I think a lot of people have acceptance of horror. I think when you get specific into zombies, for one, or vampires, or the subgenres of horrors, I think that's where most of the division comes from. You know, because and a lot of it comes from pure rational thought. You know, like you can't have zombies. You know,